Katarzyna Zowada was a Polish 20-year-old student who went missing on the 12th of November in 1998. She studied religion at the Jagiellonian University in Krakow, Poland. According to her friends, she was a nice, although somewhat sad and withdrawn person. She was a very secretive person as well, and only apparently had a couple of friends who did not know much about her either. While studying at the university, she changed her academic focus twice, shifting from psychology after one semester, briefly attending history, before finally settling on religious studies. She had suffered from depression after the death of her father in 1996, 2 years prior to her disappearance and subsequent murder. Symptoms of depression were related to the death of her father. According to the Polish media, Katarzyna blamed herself. Katarzyna was an only child and had a close relationship with her father. She had once taken her father on a trip up to the mountains. Unfortunately, her father slipped and suffered from a spinal injury, which resulted in an illness and subsequent death. Katarzyna apparently always blamed herself for the development of the events that day. She fell into depression and became even more withdrawn after the passing of her father. On the 12th of November 1998, Katarzyna was due to meet her mother at a psychiatric clinic in Nowa Huta, where she had been treated for her depression. However, Katarzyna never made that appointment. Later on that same day, Katarzyna's mother attempted to file a missing persons report at the local police station, but was told by the police that it was too early to file a missing persons report and was asked to wait a little bit. Katarzyna apparently stopped attending classes 3 weeks prior to her disappearance. The reason or where she was actually going during those 3 weeks were never discovered. Leading up to her disappearance, she would leave in the morning and return in the evening as if nothing had happened. Due to this, her mother was not able to notice that something was not right and that something was not according to her usual schedule. Now, the media reported that Katarzyna's depressive tendencies actually seemed to have subsided during those past weeks leading up to her disappearance, and it was noted that she apparently started a diet to lose weight around that same time. 56 days later, on the 6th of January in the year of 1990, the crew of a towboat floating on the Vistula River called the Elk, or Los in Polish, found a piece of evidence on the ship when their propeller got entangled in human skin. The next day, the crew notified the police of their findings. After examination, it was discovered to be human skin. DNA tests later indicated that this skin actually belonged to Katarzyna. Additionally, weirdly cut pieces of clothing were also fished out from this river. 8 days after, on the 14th of January, Katarzyna's right leg was also recovered from that river. Initially, it was assumed that the body had been destroyed by the propeller. However, when examining the body fragments found, it was found that the skin was removed from the torso on purpose and limbs and head were cut off. The skin was prepared in such a way to create a kind of a bodysuit that the murderer was probably wearing. Police believe that Katarzyna had been severely beaten, drugged, and tortured for weeks before her death. Her body was covered in stab wounds and lacerations. During the investigation, according to some specialists, the killer was inspired by the 1991 film The Silence of the Lambs and the character of Buffalo Bill, who murdered women and skinned their bodies. In 2012, experts from the 3D Expertise Laboratory in Wrocław Medical University created a model of injuries inflicted on the victim. They had concluded that the attacker had used a sharp tool to wound his victim 3 times in different body part areas, which caused the victim to bleed to death. In 2014, an FBI specialist created a profile of the killer, stating that the person had sadistic tendencies, hates women, but from the outside would be considered as a harmless freak. It would be the same person who killed and skinned Katarzyna. They used a sharp object and seemed skilled in that area, which indicated they would have done it professionally or as a hobbyist, like a furrier, a butcher, or a hunter, or even a surgeon for that matter. Lastly, in 2016, a Portuguese specialist in forensics and UN expert in the field of signs of torture confirmed that Katarzyna was tortured before her death and that the perpetrator was probably trained in some sort of martial arts.
Welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Night Mysteries. We're joined by Eurus here. How are you today?
Yep, I'm good. How are you, Rain? How are you doing?
Not bad. I'm doing very well. What do you think about this case so far?
It's a weird one. You always find weird ones. I think last week, what was the case that you found? Ibadan. That was so strange.
That was spooky.
And you seem to keep finding international cases for us to talk about.
More of the disturbing ones, I guess.
I feel like it's strange how we say international as if everything domestic is
bad.
No, everything domestic is American when none of us have even stepped foot inside of the United States. Mm-hmm. We ourselves are international.
Yeah.
So, but in a good I don't know what I'm saying here, but let's talk about the Katarzyna Zowada's case.
It's a Polish case.
How did you find this case? I've never heard about this one. Mm-hmm. And hey, we're in Lithuania right now.
Very close to Poland.
And people who don't know, very close in Poland. And actually, this case is happening in Krakow. I think Krakow is like a very historic Polish city. Mm-hmm. It used to be the capital of Poland back in the day. Mm-hmm. And I've been to Krakow 12 years ago when I was 15.
How is it in general?
From my recollections, Krakow was very beautiful. Mm-hmm. Like the old town, everything was like really solid, like a very beautiful place. And I only have like very good memories of it. I remember like driving to Poland was a nightmare. But when you actually get to Krakow, a very, very beautiful place.
I see. So to answer your question earlier, I found this case through Reddit once again. I think it was under the thread of spooky, unsolved mysteries, but I believe that they have multiple suspects in mind during the entirety of the investigation, and I have a list right here. Should we jump right in?
Yeah, I mean, let's get right into who these guys are.
Of course. So the first suspect was Vladimir W. So in May 1999, half a year after Katarzyna's death, the suspect was codenamed Sculp. He was discovered from a village near the capital. Is it the capital?
1 second. Mm-hmm. The village...
Krakow.
Near Krakow. Krakow is not the capital. The current capital is Warsaw, mm-hmm. but Krakow is like a historic, like the city of kings in Poland.
Was it ever the capital? Was it like Kaunas?
It was a capital, but I think it was maybe a capital during the medieval times. Oh. Like not recently.
But is it a big city?
It is a big city. Generally, I would say it's bigger than Vilnius. Mm-hmm. It's like 1 million people city. Oh. I think it's the second biggest in Poland. Mm-hmm. And it's a very relevant city in Poland.
Oh, I see.
Really quickly, just wanted to ask you, because we're talking about the first suspect, Vladimir W. Mm-hmm. I think we're calling him W because his last name is Polish. And we wouldn't be able to, or is it Vladimir W? That's all we have on this guy.
That's all we have. It seems like due to privacy issues or privacy laws, they didn't really fully, show the name of the guy.
So he's basically Vladimir W. Like that's what we know about the guy.
Yeah, the last name would start with W, but that's pretty much it.
And you said he had the code name Scalp. Mm-hmm. Is it the code name Scalp? Is it his own code name that he gave himself, or is this what
I believe the police called him Scalp.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah, I know. So he was a Russian expatriate in Poland. He he murdered his own father inside his father's house. He hung the body upside down, peeled off the skin of his father's face, and wore it as a mask. And as I read through a couple of articles about this, apparently he wore his father's face as a mask.
Yeah.
And then he ate dinner with his grandfather. And his grandfather apparently has a really bad eyesight, but his grandfather noticed like a weirdness.
Oh, wait, what?
Yeah. It's not written there, but I read it somewhere. So he ate dinner with his grandfather, pretending to be his father. And the grandfather kind of noticed a difference, but he wasn't entirely sure because his eyesight was bad. And this guy, Vladimir, even went outside, walked around the neighborhood wearing his father's mask. Some neighbors apparently saw him, and then their grandfather went to the father's house and saw the corpse hanging upside down, and that's when the grandfather went to the neighbors and they called the cops. Pretty disturbing, right?
It's insane because, like, I've read the notes and you kind of wrote the notes for this one, and like, I was thinking to myself, like, I didn't know that this was happening. So kind of to paint a picture for our audience, right? So basically, this guy Vladimir W kills his father, skins his father's face, puts the face on his head, and eats dinner with the grandpa who has bad eyesight, then walks around the neighborhood with his father's face.
Yep. And to make it even more disturbing, should I say this particular part?
Of course, everything you have.
He even sprinkled salt on the skin of the father so it wouldn't rot.
I mean,
Yeah, but it's pretty disturbing, right?
It's disturbing, but I guess it's practical for what he was doing, right? But he. Okay, so what else? Because, like, from what I'm reading here, the only reason why he is our guy potentially is because this is happening in May of 1999, and
so apparently he went on the same university.
As
Katarzyna, but they weren't classmates. He also studied psychology.
Okay.
On the same university as Katarzyna, but I think he graduated a year earlier.
Okay.
Prior Katarzyna's.
Or like started a year earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
Started a year earlier, right? And I'm thinking he killed his father in May of 1999. And now Katarzyna died or went missing in November of 1998. So wait, November 1998?
Just months after.
So months. Like, let's say, what is it, like 4 months?
6-ish months.
5, 6, something like that, right? Okay, so Katarzyna goes missing in 1998 in November.
Yes.
6 months later, this guy kills his father, skins his face, and like does a bunch of creepy shit. So that's what we have on him. Is there anything else that kind of, because we're basically like.
Oh, okay. So he was the first suspect that the police found, and it was pretty disturbing. And because he skinned the suspect, and what happened with Katarzyna kinda are similar-ish, so they thought he was the killer. But he admitted to the police that he only did what he did to the father out of hatred.
Okay.
So he admitted that I was so angry at my dad because his father apparently cheated on his mom in Russia and left her there, took Vladimir and his grandfather, and went to Poland to start a new life. And because of that, Vladimir kind of developed this extreme hatred for his father.
So basically it was a revenge killing.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the main reason why he didn't kill Katarzyna, because he killed his father out of revenge. And Katarzyna had no connection to him. So if he already killed someone out of revenge, why would he 6 months ago, prior to that killing, would kill someone completely random?
Exactly.
But I feel like there's something more to this Vladimir W. You don't just kill your father out of revenge.
I believe,
skin his face.
I read one article, I didn't write it here, but I read one article that says he went to a psychiatric hospital and there was like a schizophrenia happening in him.
Yeah, well, I mean that doesn't really build a case that he's innocent.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
but there was a mental thing happening during this time.
I would say so. I would say so. I would say there's something mentally happening to a guy who kind of skins his father's face and then eats dinner with the face on with his grandpa,
Definitely.
who has bad eyesight and is kind of like, is this my son?
Apparently, the grandfather noticed the change of voice and he was weirded out about it. But, of course, bad eyesight thought his son was just being an oddball, I guess.
All right.
So, could we jump in the second suspect?
Yes.
Okay, so after that, there was this suspect called Jan N.
Okay.
He was...
It's Jan. I know like it's
yeah.
Jan. No, it's okay because like in Poland the J, just like my name, it's like not a J but it's a like a yacht.
Yeah.
So it's like a Jan.
And you know, it's pretty funny. Off the topic, really quickly.
Yeah.
When I first met you, I thought you were Juris, but then I was like, is it Juris, Horus, or Eurus?
I wish it was Horus. I'm not gonna lie.
Sounds very Spanish. Perfect. Okay, thank you for correcting me. So, Jan N was apparently a 48-year-old man who one day murdered and skinned his wife and teenage son. He then tried to dispose of the bodies by tossing them into the Vistula River, piece by piece. He was arrested before he completed his plan and was committed to a mental institution afterwards. What do you think?
Another guy who skinned people in the general vicinity in probably the same period. So I would say it's an uncomfortable amount of people who skin people's bodies
Within a certain time frame, right?
in a certain area.
Yep.
And what else do we have on this guy?
One second.
I think you have it written down that his poor physical health.
Oh yeah, his poor physical health led to him being granted a parole during the time of Katarzyna's death, but the police determined that he couldn't have done that due to his apparent poor physical health at that time. So maybe he was very weak.
Yeah, but it's still strange to me. How did they even let him go on parole due to his poor physical health? Like that doesn't really get you out. That's not like a get out of jail free card. That's not like the chance Monopoly card.
Yeah, that's
You know
true.
what I mean? That you still should be
But maybe
incarcerated.
he was dying or he already on his deathbed by that point, and the police were like, yeah, okay, let him have his free time on this last moments of his life.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, I think there is like some context missing about Jan. So he apparently was in too bad of a health to kind of be the guy who killed Katarzyna. I don't think we have a time frame when he killed his wife and son, right?
No, I don't.
Because from this we don't really know, like, did it happen like
I tried looking for him
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
but Jan N without the last name, because we don't have any information about the last name, it's a little too hard to, I don't know, pinpoint.
Yeah, no, I guess it makes sense, right? So the only thing that I found particularly interesting about Jan N was that he was dumping the body parts of his family in the Vistula River, which is
Yeah.
the same place where they fished out Katarzyna's body from. So
Exactly.
that's why I kind of, when I was reading your notes, I kind of stopped at this Jan N, and I really had to like think about it, because like this is the only guy who had like a very similar modus operandi.
Uniformed.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you know what I mean. But I guess we're lacking some context regarding Jan.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
And the last one is Robert. Couldn't pronounce his last name. Can you do it for me?
Yeah, Robert Janczewski. Oh, it's easy. Robert Janczewski. Robert Janczewski.
Yeah, I'm just gonna call him Robert J.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So I
yeah.
wouldn't butcher his last name too much.
Yeah.
So apparently he was a person of interest in 1999, but had not been arrested due to lack of evidence and proper tools needed to test the blood for a DNA match. I didn't have much information about why he was already a person of interest in 1999, but apparently he was. Now, he was detained in 2017, 19 years after the crime was committed. The police made their first arrest after discovering a new evidence. One of his friends apparently wrote a letter to the police suggesting that Robert was the murderer. The contents of the letters were closely guarded and was never made public.
So what we know is that Robert, for one reason or another, was the suspect in 1999,
Yeah.
a year after Katarzyna's murder. And then 19 years later, one of his friends sent a letter to police. Now, we don't know the contents of the police, but apparently this police was the key... this letter was the main reason for his kind of apprehension.
Yeah, and to add to that, I actually read also a couple of articles that apparently Robert went to the priest and confessed to the priest, and the police came to the priest came to the police, but the articles vary. So I'm not quite sure if it's either the friend or the priest coming into the police or both. We're not sure if both things happened.
Okay.
So apparently Robert lived near the riverbank where Katarzyna's body was found. He was known as a local weirdo. The locals who knew him referred to him as a freak. According to his neighbors, Robert was the stalker, or a stalker, who dressed up in women's clothing. What do you think so far?
I think so far the fact that he lived close to the riverbank strongly connects to the case. I would say maybe even more so than that previous Jan guy, because at least we know that this guy was a suspect back then in 99 and he lived close by. And also like his freaky behavior kind of also doesn't really... is not working in his favor for sure.
Yeah, that's true. So, okay, during the search of his apartment, investigators discovered traces of blood in the bathroom and secured the bathroom frame for further testing. When tested, the possibility of the bloodstains under his mirror belonging to the victim were discovered high. Robert J. fits the psychological profile as he was trained in the martial arts. He apparently knew the victim and visited the victim's grave after her death.
We have a lot of connecting evidence, right? Like there was a sample of DNA found in his bathroom and the possibility of connection was high.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means though. What is high? Because you either connect to her DNA or not. Maybe it's like similar age group,
Possibly, yeah.
similar kind of blood type. Things like that, right? And then psychological profile also. So you see that he knew the victim. Do we know like his like kind of a connection to Katarzyna?
There were rumors that they dated before her disappearance.
But that's like a no-brainer then, you know what I mean?
But those are just rumors. There wasn't a hard evidence that would lead up to that. But we also have to remember that Katarzyna was a very closed-off individual. And nobody knew her properly, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, can we talk about how the blood stain was found on his mirror 19 years after this disappearance? Did this guy ever clean his bathroom?
Probably not.
Okay, you killed someone 19 years ago, but the police came into your apartment and found like a blood stain or something that would help them with the DNA testing. I'm not sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I just don't know about that. How that even works? I have no idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how you don't clean your bathroom fully for
19 years.
I know like not cleaning every single part like this week, but maybe next week you cover everything. You know what I mean? I don't know.
True.
It just seems pretty strange, especially, and that's like for you and me. But what about like for a person who legit skinned someone in the bathroom? Like, wouldn't you kind of wanna
Scrub everything off?
Yeah.
You had 19 years.
Wasn't enough for our guy Robert.
Yeah, seems so. So again, there were rumors that Robert changed and got very religious after Katarzyna's death. He apparently became obsessed with religion and went to church all the time, sometimes on a daily basis. And after the media said a psychic was involved in the investigation, he started visiting Katarzyna's grave at the local cemetery.
Wait, after the media said the psychic was involved?
Yeah, they apparently hired a clairvoyant or a psychic during the investigation
to determine who killed Katarzyna. Yeah, this is like such a Eastern European thing to do.
Really?
Like, yeah, we try to like hire extrasens or these guys like who will solve the murders for us. So I could, especially in the late 90s, I could see that happening. So this guy basically was like, he changed, right?
Do you think he got spooked out?
I don't know.
with
I
the
think
clairvoyant or the psychic. Because you know, it's a massive thing in Eastern Europe.
yeah, I think there's a chance that maybe this kind of led him to become like religious and like
Visit the grave and apologize.
yeah, maybe he really did become like a decent person after that. You know what I mean? If he did it, of course.
Yeah. So okay, historically as a kid, Robert he actually was in a very abusive family. There was another article that I read that his father beat him up growing up. And because of that, he also had a history of being sadistic and had been caught abusing cats and dogs. He also had a history of harassing women. He was in the army in his 20s, where he spent time working at the morgue and assisted dissections. After his military service, he worked at the Institute of Zoology, where he could observe the process of preparing animal skins. His employment was terminated the day after he killed all of the Institute rabbits during his shift. Robert J. apparently could not explain his actions. There was an article, however, that this claim was just a myth. According to some media reports, he was released from it after he killed all the guinea pigs or rabbits during his shift. However, one of the professors stated, and it was the supervisor of.
Yeah, no. We're just laughing off the name here. You're saying Professor Zbigniew Dabrowski. No, it's
Actually,
it's not bad.
I
It's
actually
Zbigniew.
skipped it so I wouldn't butcher it because I looked at the name. I was like, damn, there's no way I could read this.
Zbigniew. No, it's Zbigniew Dabrowski.
That professor. Thank you
Yeah,
for helping me out.
Of course. So just really quickly. So basically, he worked at the zoo, and he was there's a myth going on that he killed all the rabbits, but apparently this guy Zbigniew, who was like a professor at the zoo, he said that that's not the case. And
Yeah.
I see that you wrote that they did some research.
Okay, I could read what
Yeah,
he said.
of course.
He said,
Yep.
yeah, they did some research on voles. It was difficult breeding.
What is wolves?
I don't know, maybe it's a mole because it was the article that I found was in Polish,
Oh,
so
so
I
it's
just
mole.
translated
Maybe
it.
mole?
Yeah, perhaps.
Okay.
Okay, they did some research on moles. It was difficult breeding because they are wild animals. They often jump out of cages. Robert only hard at work. He had to come every Saturday and Sunday. When he left, half of those mice died because his boss couldn't take care of them. Robert ran his breeding very well. He rebelled quite a bit. That's probably why he quit.
Said Professor Dabrowski. So I mean, okay, so there's like the professor is saying that he only got the hard part of the job to do, and that the animals that he was looking after kind of died.
Yeah.
Okay, so from his employment, I don't know if we can kind of do some analysis, because it seems like some people are stating that he killed all the rabbits, but Zbigniew says that he was, just kind of a good guy while he was working.
Yeah, but we also have to remember the investigation. There was this investigation wherein some authorities said that Katarzyna was killed with precision. So whoever the killer was an expert or had an experience in dissecting human beings or animals. And now we have to remember that Robert was in the military and he was assisting dissections of human beings, and he worked for the Institute of Zoology. So I think he had the profession to make him a skilled, dissector.
Yeah, or like someone who could work with flesh.
Yes, exactly.
Very good point. And I think you have some more details here, right?
What do you think about this so far, though?
So far, I think that this guy looks definitely like the most likely suspect here. But let's finish up like if we have some more details on him, because then we can kind of reflect better what we think, right?
Okay, perfect. Now, Robert claims he never met Katarzyna and had nothing to do with her death. He has been incarcerated for the last 5 years with the trial information being private. One news article claims that after the arrest of Robert J., the prosecutors appointed a team of expert psychiatrists to give an opinion on the mental state of him. It was indicated that he was healthy. However, one psychiatrist, could you help me out with the name?
Yes, Stanislav Teleshnitsky. Stanislav Teleshnitsky.
Okay, so apparently that professor stated that based on the current mental state, it is impossible to conclude whether the patient was or was not ill in the past. In 1994, the doctor himself explained that Robert J. and was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia.
Okay, really quickly, just want to step in here because I'm trying to understand what exactly this means, because so the the court invited a psychiatrist to kind of evaluate Robert.
Yeah.
And at that point
They found him healthy.
They found him healthy, and then I liked this part I was curious about this part where it says that it was impossible to conclude whether the patient was or was not ill in the past. However, the same guy in 1994 examined Robert J. and diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia. Now, but that's interesting because this is we could miss this important fact here that Robert was actually diagnosed with schizophrenia in 1994.
Yeah.
Which is nowhere near the time that Katarzyna went missing. Let's remember, Katarzyna was killed in 1998. So 4 years prior, Robert was already diagnosed with schizophrenia, but that makes kind of sense to me because he was known to torture animals.
Yeah, and he had a very rough childhood.
Very rough childhood, so maybe he was kind of going through those institutions. But you have to remember, back in the early 90s, it was just after the Soviet Union had collapsed. So the institutions were not really good, I would say. Well, definitely not up to par to modern day institutions. But yeah, I mean, it's all good. And I think you have a last bit of information for us before we can kind of jump into what we think.
Okay, so apparently 2 years earlier, Robert stayed in a psychiatric clinic of a medical college in Krakow. He was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, personality disorders, and a drive and behavior disorders. The research was also carried out in 2005. Same diagnosis, paranoid schizophrenia with personality disorders.
So this guy is basically being tested, right? So Katarzyna is found murdered in 98, and this guy, leading up to his arrest 19 years later, he goes through these testing phases where they test his psyche, right? Okay, all right. And then I think lastly it's worth mentioning that the guy is currently incarcerated for the murder of Katarzyna. However, he still claims that he had never met Katarzyna before and had nothing to do with her death. Also.
Yeah, and to add more into that, his father, Robert's father, also said to the media that his son didn't have anything to do with it, and he thinks that his son is being framed.
Framed?
Yeah.
Why would you frame? Why would you frame someone for a cold case? What's the point of framing someone?
Exactly.
It's not like the original killer. It's not like the original killer is scared anymore. Why frame anyone for a cold case unless he had enemies?
No other information in that regard.
Okay, all right. Let's do a little bit of a break and then let's jump into some of our assets that we want to react. Okay.
Well, welcome back from the break, guys. Now we could react to the pictures.
Yeah, let's jump to some pictures. Now I see that you have you got some pictures for us. So the first one is basically Katarzyna's portrait.
Yeah. So as you see on the right side, one of the pictures, she is blonde, while the other, she had dark hair. Apparently she had naturally brown or dark hair, but she dyed her hair blonde prior to her disappearance. Okay,
that's something right there. Just seems like a nice young Polish lady. You know what I mean? Nothing too distinctive here. You want to jump to some more pictures?
The second picture would be a disturbing one. So if you blurt it out for viewers,
I think we can show. The next two pictures. I'm looking at them because okay. So let's look at the picture number 1 that you have for us.
This was apparently the piece of the body found in the ship.
Yeah, but I
And the
know
boat.
that this is like the hull of the ship, right? Like the ship,
Yeah.
and we can see like some sort of white, what seems to be like bags.
Yeah, that's true. Like a mass of bags.
Yeah, so is this like is like
It was apparently her torso.
torso? Oh, so wait, the torso is in the bag,
I'm not sure.
right? Because I think the way the description of the case was written is that like this was like the torso. It's in the white bag. We're looking at for everyone who's listening to this, we're looking at a white bag, and it looks like it has a torso. And then below we have another image, but this one has like a blurred.
Yeah, it was already blurred out.
Was already blurred out, but I don't really know what they're showing here, to be honest. But it's probably like her body, you know what I mean?
Most likely. That got stuck in the boat.
And I can see we have some more images.
This is a piece of her clothing found in the river as well. This is, I think, one of the pieces of clothing that were fished out of the river.
Right. So this was like also
Her sweater, I believe.
sweater, right? So she was dumped in with the body. Oh, sorry. So her body was either dumped in the river.
With her clothes on, or her clothes were also thrown in the river.
Yeah, but I don't really even understand how this boat got stuck in the first place, because it's been said that the boat's propeller got stuck on some human skin. So I'm thinking, if you dump a body somewhere in the river, how does the boat get? Oh, maybe it
The
makes
current?
sense. No, maybe it makes sense if, like, let's say it's a shallow area of the river, and like, you know what I mean?
The body would be floating.
Yeah, like in theory, the body would be flowing. So
It gets easier to get stuck in the
but
propeller.
yeah, but then, you know, this body was uncovered 56 days later after she disappeared already. So it makes you think, how long was the body in that river?
How long was she kept in captivity?
Very good point. Also, we have some remains, some more remains, right?
Yeah, no, this picture apparently was where they found the remains, or they found other remains.
Right. So
Either which.
some more grainy imagery from
Of
the
the
late
boat.
90s of the boat, right? And then we have the cargo boat where the body was found also.
Apparently, this was the original boat.
So yeah, it is a cargo boat, you know? It's like not a stereotypical boat that you would kind of think.
Yeah.
It's like one of those like cargo boats.
Yeah, that's true.
And you could probably tell that this boat is not meant for the open sea. It's more of a river boat, I would probably say. And yeah, I could probably see how a body would get entangled up
Yeah, because
until
it's
this.
massive.
Yeah, but then we have something very disturbing.
Very disturbing. Please blur this out.
Yeah, I'm blurring this out, or at least like pieces of it. You know what I mean? What is this?
So you on the other side, you can see Katarzyna's torso. And on
Wait,
the
is
other
this?
this is what they found apparently.
No, okay. So like the thing on the right side is a torso, but I think it's like a drawn torso.
Yeah.
It's like a drawing
yeah,
of a torso.
it was the drawing made by the authorities.
Okay, and the left is the original.
Yes.
That's the original. Holy crap! That's so disturbing.
So yeah, if you really look at it, you would see that it's been intentionally skinned to be worn as a suit, right? You could see it. You could see the intention behind it.
Yeah, well, I can definitely see that. It's the limbs have been removed.
Yeah.
And it's very disturbing, you know what I mean? Because we just looked at Katarzyna, and she seemed like a very nice young lady, and to know
Yeah.
like her fate is pretty crazy.
That's true.
And then I think we have Robert Janczewski himself. So he's a burly man, you know what I mean? He's
Pretty
like
massive,
he's like a pretty man. He's like a shorter guy,
but
but
massive
yeah,
muscles.
looks like he lifts. Yeah, so nothing too distinctive about him is that he seems like he's shorter than everyone else, but he has like bigger muscles, like a short, muscly guy.
Yeah.
All right. So I think it's a good time to kind of jump to the theories and the conclusion. So from from this case, right, and from the everything that you kind of looked into and researched about it, I will say that this last guy seems to me like he's connected the most because he lived nearby the river. He was messed up in the head because of his abusive childhood, and then he was diagnosed with schizophrenia on multiple, or at least once when he was a kid in '94. And I think the fact that he kind of attached himself to the victim after
Those
the
were
murder.
just rumors, though. Oh, the rumor.
No, but the fact that he went to the
grave.
Why would you go to that specific grave?
If you don't know that
Yeah,
person.
and then also one of his friends sent a letter to law enforcement, and that letter was the catalyst for his arrest. I feel like if we knew the contents of the letter, we would know why they arrested him. The only thing is that, and obviously his dirty ass bathroom had like a stain, a 19-year-old blood stain. That was, I mean, I'm not really sure what they got with that stain. Maybe that's not even anything that strong. Another thing that I see from your research, that there was this guy, a doctor named Konopka, who apparently published a study of over 20 crimes, and he said that he is convinced that whoever dismembered Katarzyna's body and peeled off her skin did not kill her. The person could have found Katarzyna's body after the accident and peeled off the skin, because apparently the way that Katarzyna Zowada could have died, like her skin, apparently, the stretchiness of her skin kind of indicated that it could have been an accident, or she may have committed a suicide. One way or another, I think we can, it's like something that we don't have a lot of information on. I think the one thing that we kind of may potentially overlook is, and I found interesting, was the fact that Katarzyna was depressed because of her father's murder. Not murder, sorry, because her father died due to an accident, right? And I found it pretty interesting how she, leading up to her disappearance, she was going somewhere for 3 weeks, not going to study. So we would probably think that maybe up to those 3 weeks she was meeting up with Robert Janczewski, and that Robert, eventually killed her. But at some point she was even like, her depression got a little bit better. No longer those severe depressive symptoms, I think. And then also on top of that, she probably was starting to lose some weight, so she probably was thinking of improving her physical appearance.
Yeah.
So
to add more into that, I'm sorry.
Okay. No, of course, yeah.
There were also a couple of articles that said she dyed her hair because Robert has a preference for blondes.
Oh, that's why the blonde hair.
Yeah.
Okay.
But those were just rumors, no concrete evidence about them.
And obviously Robert is denying everything.
Of course.
Because he wants to get out, you know what I mean? But just the fact that Robert connected himself to Katarzyna and is known to have like psychotic issues, and was living close to the river, I think that I would have to say that Robert was the guy who killed Katarzyna.
Like all connections lead to him. Right?
Yeah, and I think we would even have more conviction with our decision here if we knew the contents of the letter that was sent by one of Robert's friends.
Yeah.
And Robert these days looks like a burly boy, like he's someone who could have enemies. You know what I mean? I can see how he's a burly boy, and maybe he had like some enemies who knew more about the night, or like just like the murder.
Yeah.
And they spilled the beans, snitched on Robert, and now Robert is fighting a murder case from the late 90s.
Yeah, that's true.
The Jan guy and the Vladimir W, I think they're still suspects, because I don't really see how Vladimir W is out of the picture here. He was a fellow student.
Yeah.
And he literally gutted his father like 6 months later.
Yeah.
So I don't see how we get Vladimir W off the hook here. However, Jan, the old guy Jan, I think he probably didn't do it, because it's been kind of portrayed that he was all messed up and old.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know why they let him off into parole. That's just weird. But maybe he wasn't connected. I think I would say Jan probably didn't do it, but I would say Vladimir W.
He has it in him.
Yeah, I feel like Vladimir W is still someone who could have done it. It's very close proximity. Went to the same university, skinned his father, did some messed up thing, even talked to grandpa with the father's face. What's that all about? Like, if it's a revenge killing, you just shoot the guy and you call it a day.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't like skin the face. And, it was just something like, you know what I mean?
Really disturbing.
Yeah. So would you be leaning the same way that like we think that Robert is probably the culprit?
Yeah, definitely.
But Vladimir W is interesting.
Yeah.
Definitely interesting, right?
Yeah. He actually got deported in Russia upon his request, so he was serving jail time, or he probably is. He's probably still alive. Jail time in Russia right now.
Oh, so he requested to be transferred to Russia?
Yes. So apparently they detained him.
Yeah.
He got in jail in Poland, and he requested to get deported back to Russia and serve jail time there.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, maybe he just wanted to go back to his home country.
Yeah, but still in jail though. So it's interesting, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know. Unless you would like to add something else, I think it's a fun show, fun episode.
What do you think about everything about this case?
Just like a very weird case that you found again for us, like because we've been doing like true crime content for like a couple of years now at this point, and I've never ran into the Ibadan Forest of Horrors or this case. So you just keep finding us some really weird ones,
Disturbing ones.
Yeah, but I'm kind of glad because it's expanding the scope of like how many weird cases we do. So I'm good. I know that next week we have planned the Brianna Maitland. So that's coming up for you guys for sure. And then we're going to find another case. We'll see if it's going to be international or...
Yeah, but if you have any suggestions, please tell us.
Yes, please.
Leave a comment.
Please leave a comment, and I don't know, I had a good time.
Me too.
And we'll see you guys on the next one.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.